This Sunday on Press Pass, steady rain this past month is wreaking havoc around the valley, not just in terms of flooding, but also on the local farms trying to grow crops that you end up buying in the grocery store. All of the rain really turning fields into mud pits. When you drive by, you notice it. So here with more on the impact that it will have this summer and further into the season is Ohio State Extension Program Coordinator Haley Shoemaker. Thank you so much for coming in. You know, at this state of the game in the month of June, how much damage have we done to the growing season? Is there any way they can catch up?
So we're really far past where we should have been to get crops in, especially for corn and soybeans. Mostly at this point, the farmers that are going to be trying to get those corn and soybeans in are trying to feed them to their livestock. So we're really facing kind of a potential feed shortage, and we're also facing a forage shortage if we can't get hay off here soon as well.
Now, the prices that folks pay at the grocery store, they're wondering, is all of this going to ripple effect onto the consumer? I talked to Molnar Farms. They said maybe not so much, maybe like another quarter for a dozen a year of corn. But they're worried just that there might be gaps in the sweet corn. Is that what you're hearing, just the gaps in the supply?
We're hearing similar things and similar concerns from our consumers. We are not sure and able to point out a definite price increase yet. We're not quite sure how this is all going to unfold and affect our consumers, but farming is one of those occupations that affects the farmers and the consumers as well. So we're trying to keep an eye on what this means for our consumers down the line.
And it's a wait and see kind of thing. I think even Lutz Farm out in Trumbull County, they were telling me, you know, it's just you have to wait and see how it all pans out. We could dry out with all this hot weather on the forecast coming up.
Yeah.
You know, for the crops locally that are impacted, which ones are the ones that are the most at risk of maybe not even developing enough at all?
So corn and soybeans are those crops that we typically keep a close eye on. They both need a certain amount of time to reach that crop maturity, and planting late really decreases the amount of time we have to get that crop to a mature yield.
Okay, now I'm sure you've heard Governor Mike DeWine is asking for disaster relief and assistance for the farms that really have been impacted by this. I was even talking with a farmer out in western Ohio, and they're feeling the same thing. So is there enough money to go around to fix this or to help? Because I know some of them say, well, we'll just collect the insurance.
So some of the questions surrounding that petition for disaster aid, there's actually been two petitions made in Ohio. One was from FSA, and that was for a specific few western Ohio counties. The one recently petitioned by Governor DeWine was to cover the entire state of Ohio. That disaster aid may or may not go to all the counties in Ohio. That is up to that governing body to choose which counties receive disaster aid. So we could or we could not see any of that.
Now, if the payment rates get raised, you know, from 55% to 90%, would that make enough of an impact? Do you think most farmers will feel almost whole?
So while they petitioned for a raise to 90%, we're not expecting to see that jump to 90%, maybe to 60, maybe to 70. That's one of those things where we're going to have to wait and see. And one thing to remember with crop insurance is it's not designed to cover the total loss of a crop. It covers a percentage of that, and it's also not accounting for the prepaid expenses that have already been incurred, such as fertilizer and seed, that they're not going to have a profit to help outweigh that.
And I know some of them were talking about disease. Is that something you study, and would it cost a lot of money to fix that?
So crop disease, especially with this wet weather we've been having, is definitely something we're concerned with. Another concern with acres now sitting unplanted is weed control and weed pressure. Without a healthy growing crop in the field, weeds tend to take over and become a problem. So we're going to be working with farmers to get cover crops in so their fields don't sit bare for a whole growing season, and we're going to be working with them to combat disease pressures as well.
Sounds like you're going to be very busy. Have you had a lot of conversations with all of the farmers in the area, or are you still reaching out to some of them? We're
still reaching out, but we have daily conversations. Stress levels are really high, understandably. This is their livelihood, and they're most likely looking at a potential loss for this year.
Well, I really appreciate your time this morning. I know you're kind of in the thick of it right now, so we'll have to check back in with you in a little bit, but I know we're watching the developments on what's happening in Columbus to see if they can get any relief here financially. All right, Haley, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for